In EVE Echoes, it's not all that uncommon to come across individuals that complain that the game doesn't have small ship content, and the game is too heavily skewed towards capital ships. But the truth is, we have plenty that we can do in small ships in the game. Thank you for the casual Mark for bringing this video suggestion to my attention. Today we're going to be talking about what you can do in ships that are battle cruisers or smaller. I say battle cruisers or smaller because most of you are probably grinding away with big heavy battleships or even capital ships in some cases. You're grinding away and getting all the ISK that you want, and we're going to be disregarding the ISK per hour argument. We're going to be assuming that you, the player, have got a comfortable amount of ISK, you're happy, you've done all your grinding for the week, now you just want to have some fun in something small, battlecruiser or smaller. So we'll hit the ground running with some of the easy, more obvious ones, shall we? We have PvP. Now you can do all manner of things with PvP. You can roam around in an interceptor frigate and completely disregard all of the interdiction bubbles in nullsec. Just fly around, try to catch ratters, miners, etc. off guard with your lightning speed at being able to pass through systems. You could take Heron Explorer's example with the Blink fleet. Get people too comfortable around you, then decloak in a stealth bomber, have all of your friends arrive in stealth bombers, completely nuke these really comfortable battleships, fly away again before you receive any damage, that sort of thing. Those are just small examples. There are other things as well. You could go into certain areas such as nihilist dead spaces, or go into other people's storyline missions in low sec. There's a lot of options for PvP. Moving on, we have exploration. This is also a small ship form of content, a form of content I tend to engage in every few days when I've got 15 to 20 minutes to spare. Now this is something that you can mostly do in not interceptors, although people have been known to do them in interceptors, especially before the Explorer frigates were released. So you can do these in interceptor frigates, Magnate Explorers, or the other Explorer ships. I just use Magnates because it's a MAR. Yeah, you can also do it in cruisers, for example, because there's no guarantee that you're not going to end up in a bit of a PvP action whilst you're in there, and it might be better off that you're in a cruiser. Who knows? That's what the Covert Ops cruisers are there for, I guess. So yeah, you have exploration, which melds into it a bit of PvP, and it's rather uncommon that you're going to see a battleship roll up into these. It's not unheard of, and I'm pretty sure somebody is somewhere gone into exploration with the Nestor. I mean, it kind of has some bonuses towards it, I think, if I recall. I only owned a Nestor for a couple of months, and I didn't have a use for it. It just didn't have a role at that point in the game that I owned it. But anyway, moving along, we have Dormant Realms, yet another obvious form of content. Yes, I understand that Dormant Realm 2 Into the Abyss is one of the most popular ones out there, and it is dominated by Apocalypse Strikers, or I guess more recently the Apocalypse Navy issue. But the fifth Dormant Realm, for which I cannot remember the name because I don't believe I've actually done it yet, is very frigate friendly. I don't know if it's restricted to frigates. I honestly can't remember, but it's very frigate friendly. Again, I don't know the specifics. I will one day do a video on that one if I actually get around to doing that Dormant Realm. It's been a while since I've done any of them. But again, we have a Dormant Realm that is frigate friendly. Moving on, we have faction wargames. I know not all that many people do faction wargames, and that is the main reason why there is always a rather lengthy queue for people, and people complain they've got 30 minutes of queue. The problem isn't the 30 minutes of queue, it's the fact that nobody else is joining up in that queue for faction wargames. And there are some good rewards at the end of faction wargames, in terms of debris, for example, that you can get from the loyalty point store, if only more people engaged in it. And it's a quick and easy way to get a bit of practice in with a frigate or a destroyer. Again, small ship content, it's there, we can play it if we so choose. The only thing it's suffering from at the moment is the fact that nobody's engaging with it, and because nobody's engaging with it, nobody's engaging with it. Do you see where I'm coming from here? It's kind of caught in its own perilous loop that we need to salvage it out of. Moving along, we have nihilist dead spaces, something I referred to loosely earlier. If I recall, and I had to ask somebody in one of the Discord chats for this, you can enter nihilist dead spaces with different ship classes depending on the quality of the dead space. So, for example, if it's a dead space level 4 and... is it a 4? 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. Yeah. This is very well thought out, this video, can't you tell? So, nihilist dead spaces. If you head into one that's a level 5 or 6, the highest level you'll be able to... well, the highest tonnage you'll be able to enter it with will be a cruiser. If you go into the next ones, 7 and 8, battle cruiser. 9 and 10 would be your battleships. So right there you've got nihilist dead spaces that are restricted to small ship content. Now again, we are disregarding the fact that they are less valuable than the 9 and 10 ones that the battleships are going into. We're disregarding that because we're all about going in there, seeing what we can do and what fun we can have. Any money you make is just a bonus on top at this point. Of course we have PvE. This is something I occasionally dabble in, usually when there's events going on, such as the one that we've just had with the anime skins. It's usually just something to spice things up a bit, and that is punching above your weight. For example, I tend to go into these event missions, whether it's the Grimace missions at Halloween or the anime missions we've just had. I'll go into them with a Gila. Yeah, a Gila. And it might be a bit more micromanaging involved because I've got to keep my speed up, I've got to keep my capacitor healthy, I've got to actually make sure I'm dealing enough damage, and it probably takes about 3 times longer than if I was to fly a battleship. But it's a bit more engaging, it gets me doing more things than pressing the lock all button every 2 minutes. It's just more engaging, it tends to be what I do when these events are live. Again, it doesn't benefit me financially in-game to fly a Gila instead of a Bolgorn, but I do it anyway because I actually have fun doing that. And next up, this is something that we've seen since the beginning of the game and people always find a way to fit this in, and that is thieving. Whether that's stealing planetary materials as you're roaming through hostile space, stealing capital anomaly loot, just at the end of somebody's anomaly when they're about to scoop everything up. I've seen it before where it might not be interceptor frigates, but more often than not it'll be some form of covert ops frigate. What they'll do is they'll enter the system, they'll see one of these capital anomalies, and they'll go, I'll wait until they've killed off the carriers, or until they've killed off enough that there's some valuable loot in there, but they've not finished yet and the Noctis hasn't arrived. What they'll do, decloak, warp straight to the wreck in question, loot it, and whilst they're looting it, the autopilot is already navigating them towards the bookmark they've created where they can safely cloak back up again. I've seen it happen before and it was quite entertaining watching people ninja loot, as it were, an anomaly as it was being run, just scooping capital debris. There was actually a level of skill to it, and I admire the people that managed to pull it off. Again, it's another form of small ship content, and the same can be said with stealing structures. It wasn't uncommon when SHH were demolishing all of their own structures and pulling down all of the Capsuleer outposts. It wasn't uncommon to see people coming along and camping right next to these Capsuleer outposts and just taking them. The ones that were unanchoring, just take them. Wasn't uncommon. Again, you can fit them in smaller ships. Again, it's not small combat ships, but odds are you probably had some small ships around you, maybe interceptors, just to fend everybody off whilst you scooped it up. Who knows? It's stuff that I've seen anyway. And of course, this is all just stuff that you right now can head into the game and start doing, as long as you're not too bothered about ISK per hour. But what if we were to try to do something as a group? Yeah, as a group. We have to remember that this game is a sandbox. The developer's main purpose is to give us all of the tools to create our own experiences. We saw that recently with the content creators capital clash, or I can't remember the exact name of it, but you'll know what I'm on about. And if not, I'll be sure to leave a link to one of the videos regarding it in the description below. But what happened there essentially was a bunch of people got together and said, we're going to agree to fly this particular class of ship, and we're going to have a tournament organisation structure whereby we fight it out until we get to the last bracket. It's as simple as that. I've engaged in one tournament myself in the past with my current alliance, shortly after I joined it. What that particular tournament was you had a 40 million-esque budget. That was it, 40 or 50, I can't remember, but it was in that ballpark. And what you had to do was get a cruiser, it could be any cruiser, and fit it out without a nanocore under that budget. If the insurance value for that ship exceeded that budget, then you were disqualified. And it was good fun. Personally, I flew the Arbitrator, the same thing that you'll see in my channel's icon. And it was good fun. The first match I won by just completely going overboard with tracking disruptors. My opponent could not touch me at 30 kilometers away in an Arbitrator. Second time round though, didn't quite pay off. The opponent had tons of Weberfires and they just took out my drones. Nothing I could do at all. But it was good fun. It was a good tournament. And any corporation or alliance can pull off a tournament like this. It doesn't have to be expensively run. You could do a 5 million-esque frigate tournament if you wanted. That really made you push the boundaries of small ships. Again, it's out. The option is out there for you. In another good event example, something that is currently ongoing within my own corporation, is a bounty event. So for a bit of context here, what's happened with my current corporation is one individual has been nominated, whether voluntarily or not, I do not know. But this individual is temporarily left the corporation and set as red. And there is a challenge posted within the corporation Discord saying, this person is currently red, he's still a member of us, but he's red for the duration of this event, and it is our job to kill him. And if you kill him in a specific class of ship, then you get bonus rewards. Again, it's just a nice little local bounty system. He's still there in all of our intel channels, he's not been excluded from any events or CTAs or anything like that. It's just good fun. Whenever you see him in system, you know he's online and you're like, oh sweet, if I can take his worm in my crew or frigate and I actually defeat him, I get a payout, you know, that sort of thing. It's just another, you know, player-driven event, as it were. And they don't all have to be combat-related events. How about ship racing? This is something that kind of came to me when I was thinking about an episode of Star Trek Voyager. And this is where you just have a race. You'll have your spectators or referees, whoever, just sit around in pods to mark the locations. And what you'll do is you'll fly past each of these pods, you know, to create your circuit. And the idea here would be you can't fit any weapons. You can only have mid slots and low slots. No drones, no high slots. You can still have your nanocore, your implant, etc. That wouldn't matter. And the point here would be, not only are you racing with the fastest possible ship you can build with the best possible inertia for turning those corners when you get to each of these pods, but you've got E-War. And that could really spice things up, you know, everybody constantly scrambling each other and webifying each other or neuting each other to try and get the upper hand. And the person you've just scrammed isn't being affected because you've just found out that he's running an oversized afterburner to put the middle finger up to you and go, ha ha, you can't catch me, and just carry on speeding off ahead. It could be good fun. And get some good spectators in there as well. Live stream it on YouTube. Yeah, the point is the content is out there. And there are also features within the game. I'm not sure if features is the right word, maybe game mechanics, that just aren't at all affected by the size of the ship that you are flying. I'm just going to look it up on my device right now. I believe it is called Automatic Defense, the one I'm thinking of in particular. So I'll just pull it up right now. Automatic defense is a brilliant implant. It's often overlooked by a certain other, I believe it's called bombard tactics, that it's completely overlooked by. But it has a brilliant skill, and that is the attacks from drones or fighters, in this case we're talking about drones because it's small ships of course, have a percentage chance of disengaging the target from all currently locked targets. You can pull this off with a frigate with the frigate's drones, or a cruiser with the cruiser's drones. It scales perfectly. It's not, oh, you get 30% more damage, therefore to get the most out of it, you need to have the biggest possible ship. No, it's just a flat out ability. Wherever you're flying, if you have drones out, you could force a target to disengage from all targets. Again, this is the first mechanic that comes to mind. There are probably other things hidden both in the implants and the nanocores that I am unaware of that scales perfectly down to the smaller ships. And as I was saying earlier, it all comes back to the Sandbox creativity. It's our job to find the fun content among us and to organise it and to make it all happen. So why don't we? But anyway, that's enough rambling for me. If there's anything that I left out, feel free to include it in the comments section below, because after all, this is all about helping other players find that small ship content that they so desperately seek. And feel free to hit that subscribe button. Make sure that you're able to stick around for future videos. But anyway, I'll cut the ramble there. Thanks again for watching and see you guys in the next video.